why Enola Holmes should have been a TV show. That's right, I'm back with another movie review / critique. Today I'll be talking about the newly released Enola Holmes film and why I think it would have been better as a TV show. And before we continue, there will be spoilers. Don't say I didn't warn you. Enola Holmes is based off of the book series of the same name, written by Nancy Springer. I'm not familiar with the series itself, so I can't comment on whether or not the film was a faithful adaptation. So those of you who've actually read the books, please comment your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear them. Both the film and books revolve around Enola Holmes, the 16-year-old sister of Detective Sherlock Holmes and government official Mycroft Holmes. The Holmeses have no younger sister in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's original stories, so Enola Holmes is technically non-canonical. But it's a clever enough premise that it works without feeling like a cheap or easy ploy, especially since Enola has her own motivations, moral code, and abilities. This film, the first of what I presume / hope will be many, takes much of its plot from the first book, The Case of the Missing Marquess. The film follows Enola Holmes as she attempts to find her mother who has suddenly disappeared, while simultaneously eluding her brothers and solving a mystery. Overall, it's a good movie that's definitely worth watching. There's solid performances from the cast, a quick-witted script, and the story is clever without being unnecessarily complicated. A rarity since most mysteries love to play gotcha with the audience. My biggest qualm with the film is its pacing, which, while not necessarily bad, is the reason I think it should have been a TV show. Funnily and ridiculously enough, on my first viewing of the film, I was actually under the impression that it was a TV show. Something about the way the trailer was cut felt like a setup for an entire series, and that's what I went in thinking. After about an hour and a half, I finally thought to myself, wow, this episode is pretty long, huh? Only to discover that it was actually a movie and there were only 30 minutes left. I not only felt foolish, but I was actually pretty disappointed because I'd been looking forward to seeing more, which is honestly a great problem to have. What you need to understand about a film versus a television show is that while both should follow a 3-act structure, a good TV show needs a 3-act structure for every episode, the entire season, and for the entire series. In other words, there should be an overarching theme and message that develops continually. The movie is broken down as such. In the first act, Enola and the facets of her life are introduced to the audience, and the inciting incident, aka what sets the rest of the film in motion, is the disappearance of her mother combined with the return of her brothers who want to send her to a finishing school to become a young lady. In response to this, Enola runs away from home and comes upon Lord Tewkesbury, a young boy in trouble, the film's other conflict. During the second act, Enola deals with the conflicts from the first act of the film. She sends a message to her mother, learns more about Lord Tewkesbury's circumstances, and gets sent to the finishing school. The final act follows her escape from said school, the climactic resolution to Lord Tewkesbury's case, and her mother's return, which means that every conflict introduced during the first act gets resolved in the final act. That is very, very good. But here's how it could have been great. Imagine that Enola Holmes was actually a TV series averaging about 45 minutes an episode. Episode 1, we're introduced to Enola and her mother. Then her mother disappears and her brothers arrive to take her away. Episode 2, Enola runs away, meets and saves Lord Tewkesbury, then arrives in London and disguises herself as a lady. Episode 3, Enola meets Edith and learns more about her mother, bumps into the bowler hat man and fights him, then makes her way to Tewkesbury Manor. Episode 4, meets the Tewkesburys and Inspector Lestrange, investigates the Tewkesburys, then finds Lord Tewkesbury. Episode 5, gets caught by Lestrange and brought to finishing school, struggles for a little bit, then gets rescued by Lord Tewkesbury. Episode 6, realizes who tries to kill Lord Tewkesbury, has a cute little season finale fight scene, then a happy resolution where she gets to meet her mother. As you can see, this still follows the course of the film, but gives each of its original conflicts room to breathe and increases the tension. We'd also have time for a few tiny side plots where we'd get to see Enola doing some more detective work, and more time with some of the side characters. Because honestly, aside from the pacing, that's the film's weakest link. Many side characters aren't fully developed, We rarely see their motivations or other aspects of their personalities. And Enola, while she does struggle on occasion, overall has a pretty easy time, to the point that by the end of the film, she manages to not only elude Sherlock, but solves a case faster than him. I think a little more time in London, perhaps a subplot involving someone robbing her, could be an interesting storyline for a first season. It'd not only be a chance for her to do some detecting, but considering the character has basically no knowledge of the outside world and would probably be a touch naive, it'd also be a good learning experience.
She knows nothing of the world.
And before I end this video, here are some other things that came to mind while watching this movie. The love interest. While I do think it was a bit rushed, which again is primarily a pacing issue, I do find Enola and Lord Tewkesbury's relationship believable. First, because the actors are actually similar in age, thankfully. Their camaraderie seems natural and not at all creepy. You feel as though they actually enjoy being around each other and have things in common. It doesn't feel forced. Another plus, they didn't make him a total idiot, which happens quite often in movies where the female lead doesn't fit the textbook definition of femininity. Both bring something to the table that the other lacks, as seen when she helps him escape the train and he uses his botanical knowledge to find them something to eat. Honestly, some other writers could learn a thing or two about developing realistic relationships from this movie. Breaking the fourth wall. I like a fourth wall break. Fleabag, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Deadpool, Birds of Prey, Wolf of Wall Street, all do it brilliantly. It's an easy way to make the audience feel connected to the world and create humor. But in Enola Holmes, there's not only a few too many fourth wall breaks, but some of the moments feel ill-timed.
Let me think. Do you have any ideas?
It's tough to say if that's a problem with the delivery, editing, or writing in general, but I think we could have reduced the amount of fourth wall breaks by about half, especially when so many of them are just Millie Bobby Brown making a funny face to camera. Sexy Sherlock. I enjoy Henry Cavill as an actor. I've been a fan since he was Albert Mondego prancing around France in breeches, but I just don't buy him as Sherlock Holmes. Likely because I interpret Sherlock as more of an arrogant and testy individual, as opposed to someone oozing charm and sex appeal. Not that I think that Henry Cavill was doing this on purpose. It just happens naturally, because duh. Plus, it's pretty tough to remove the Superman association, even for someone like myself who hasn't even watched those movies. Perhaps if there'd been more time to develop his character and personality outside of being amused by Enola's exploits, I'd feel differently. If another actor, say Damian Lewis or Paul Bettany, had taken on the role, I probably wouldn't have this issue since I don't associate them with such hyper-masculine characters. Overall, it just feels like a sexy CW version of Sherlock. Girl power. This is a fairly minor complaint that I really only noticed because I was keeping an eye out for it. But I felt like they were a little heavy-handed with the woo, feminism message. Enola was already an interesting female character who's breaking societal gender norms. I don't need the other characters doing stuff like this.
Oh, good God. Feminism. Perhaps she was mad or senile.
If you liked the Enola Holmes film, then I'd suggest checking out Dickinson and The Great. Both series feature complex female protagonists, are set in interesting time periods, and have a similar humorous tone. Another one I recommend is Down with Love, a highly underrated rom-com that satirizes the 1950s. What did you think about Enola Holmes? Do you like it as a movie, or would you have preferred it as a TV show? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!